is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as Loyola of Chicago pulling off 2 big wins, not just against Ohio State, but against CSUN. Are Ramblers starting to be more for real? And will they be able to finish ahead of McKendree? Speaking of McKendree, they made history yesterday as they managed to pull off a big win against Lindenwood in a reverse sweep. But the win wasn't the big thing. It was history that they made. Also, we had some youth sports action as Brandon of Manitoba, yes, the same Brandon that helped kick off the NCAA men's volleyball team, they made history as well. And Texas beach volleyball continues to make history as they managed to take down number 2 LMU. The Longhorns are not just good at deep indoor volleyball, but beach volleyball as well. And we have lots of volleyball to discuss from high school, 3C2A, and much more. Handball volleyball, that's next. Number of to get some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez, bring you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio. Your destination for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 291 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard and on Twitch as well. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, please make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly, greatly appreciate that. We're trying to reach 400 subscribers by the end of this month, and we're trying to reach 500 by the end of April. And with your help, we could definitely make it happen. Also, make sure to check us out on other podcast platforms such as Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, GeoSavin, Amazon Music. The list goes on and on. Podchaser, you name it. Also, make sure to check us out on our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop where you can cop t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and so much more. And also make sure to check out the Hall of Fame, where yours truly is a Hall of Fame inductee number 10. And check out the website for so much more. For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, Raw Nutrition Supplements, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get on in to what our sponsors are all about.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rising shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at @sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors. Also, make sure to check out our most recent sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com and use the promo code IESR in all caps for 10% off of your order. So definitely do check that out. And also make sure to check out Setpoint on social media. Follow me. Follow the show on X at set_point.ie. Follow me, the host, personally on X as well, at Teran Rodriguez 1. And you can follow the show on Instagram at set_point.ISR, which I'm posting more content when it comes to that show, or when it comes to that account. Also, make sure to check out the Supporters Club. Here's the link in this little banner thing. Also, it's in the description of the show. If you want to be a member of the Setpoint Supporters Club, it's only $5 a month. And if you do become a member of the Setpoint Supporters Club, you'll get a shout out from this show, every show along the way. And also, if you become a member for the next 4 months, you will get an IE Sports Radio t-shirt or tank top, whichever you choose, shipped to you directly. Also, if you become a member of the sports club, you'll get a chance to be on Set Point Extra Points or on the live show of Set Point. And if you become a member of the sports club longer than 4 months and beyond, then honestly, I might just make it worth your while, and we may have to discuss more things. But I digress on that. But I also want to give a shout out to Kevin Prate for his contribution to Set Point. Thank you to Kevin for your contribution to Set Point. It really does mean a lot. He actually discovered something for me a couple weeks ago, which I actually made note, which I'm about to make note of later on the show, but that's not for a little bit later. But for right now, let's discuss some NCAA men's volleyball action. As if you actually look at the background, I'm home. I'm not in my brother's apartment where I was staying for the past, I think 3 months. So I'm back home, and it feels good to be back home. I'm happy to be home. I'm a little sad that I had to leave my brother because I enjoyed hanging out with him. But honestly, I feel great being back at home. I don't have to hold back in terms of doing Set Point because I was doing Set Point in an apartment complex, and then there were some people upstairs, and I didn't want to disturb them all that much. And also, I can do my weekly starting rotation of the week on Mondays instead of Tuesdays. And that's just another feather in my cap, which I think is going to be really cool. So expect some more big things for Set Point. And more importantly, I'll be back to covering men's volleyball or volleyball in general, because there wasn't all that much volleyball in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Not too much, other than like TCU beach volleyball and maybe some SMU volleyball or some Fort Worth TCU volleyball. But I didn't get a chance to cover TCU or SMU on the indoor side of things, just on the beach in terms of TCU. But I digress. So Glenn Ritter, the host of Bold North Breakdown, he says, have a great show, Teran. Thank you very much, Glenn. I appreciate it. All right, but now let's talk some NCAA men's volleyball action. So the men's volleyball action started last Monday, but there wasn't too many eye-popping matchups. We did have BYU taking down Harvard in 4 sets. Which, I mean, Harvard is a scrappy team, and they did take the first set off of BYU, but BYU was able to just roll past them the next 3 sets, which honestly does not surprise me in any way, shape, or form. So you had that right there. That was last Monday. Tuesday, we had a pretty sneaky good match. We had Lincoln Memorial taking on Tusculum, the one with Declan Wingo. But Lincoln Memorial was able to stand on business, beating Tusculum in straight sets. Mount Olive took down Barton in straight sets. People are still clamoring for Mount Olive to be ranked, and I don't blame them. But we shall see. If they'll be ranked. I mean, it would be great for volleyball just because we're giving some of the not so notable conferences some love, like the EIVA. Well, the EIVA isn't in the top 20. It's the Conference of Carolinas. That's not it. The SIAC is nowhere near it, unfortunately. And then the IVA only has one conference team in the top 20, and that is Lincoln Memorial. Ralph Cully says, good evening, Teran. Game, set, match. It's volleyball time from IE Sports Radio. Volleyball guru, let's go. Thank you, Ralph. I appreciate that. So that was that for Tuesday. Wednesday, we had probably the most exciting matchup so far. This was probably the icebreaker of the NCAA men's volleyball season. We had McKendree, the great feel-good story team, or America's team, as some people like to call them. They reverse swept Lindenwood. It was looking bad at first. They were down 0-2 to Lindenwood. Remember, this is a Lindenwood team that was coming off of 2 good wins over Lewis, which was in the top 15 ranked at the time, and Quincy, which has been pretty solid. They haven't been your grandfather's Quincy as of the past. But Lindenwood was up 2-0. Then McKendree just wound up winning the 3rd set. Then they nearly won the 4th set. And then they won the 5th set quite convincingly. And McKendree, with that win, they boosted their win streak up to 10 games, which is now a new program record. So McKendree is just kicking butt and taking names, which I think is pretty awesome if you ask me. And then we had CSUN heading down to Romeoville to take on Lewis, where the Matadors wound up winning in 5 sets, which I thought was pretty incredible if you ask me. The Matadors was the Madras continue their stellar season, but Lewis was able to give them a fight. And it's so tough to win in Lewis. Like, Lewis has one of those old school gymnasiums, and it can get packed pretty quickly. So honestly, if that gymnasium is packed, you're going to be hearing a lot of loud hecklers than normal. It's not like playing at the Pyramid or Pauley Pavilion or Galen Center or Brennevent Center or any of that sort. And then you had George Mason taking down Damon in 4 sets, which I thought was a pretty good win. You had Vanguard taking down Concordia Irvine in 5 sets, which that was a rivalry of 2 former NAIA men's volleyball teams from Orange County, where Vanguard did pull off the win in Irvine, which I thought was a pretty good win for Vanguard. Nice little MPSF feather in their cap. And then Loyola Chicago took down the Ohio State in 4 sets, which I thought was pretty good if you ask me as well. And then jumping over to Friday, we had UC Irvine taking down Damon in straight sets at George Mason. You had Mount Olive taking down Lees McRae in 4 sets. Okay, well, I mean, it's a win, but it's not going to really reinforce the truth of this team deserves to be ranked. I'm sorry to people that want Mount Olive ranked, but Mount Olive does not have any wins against teams, not only that are ranked, but all their wins are against teams that don't even receive votes. So I get it. We want to see more diversity in the top 20. We don't want to see just MPSF, Big West, MIVA, and EIVA. We want to see Conference of Carolinas, and we want to see more IVA teams like Lincoln Memorial. But Mount Olive has kind of got to prove that they deserve to be in the top 20, which we'll get into that momentarily. But we also had BYU taking down Grand Canyon in 4 sets, which it's never easy to win at Grand Canyon. Especially if you're BYU. You kind of have to. You're not going too far, but Grand Canyon is a very tough place to win at. And I think that it was. I don't know if it was that night or the night before they had like a specific theme night, but Grand Canyon can get pretty hype over there. And then Long Beach State took down NGIT in the Battle of the Grits in 4 sets. So Long Beach State rolled through the first 2 sets. NJIT was able to sneak a set off of Long Beach State in set 3. And then Long Beach State kind of stood on top of business in the 4th set, and they took down NJIT. And then we also had Purdue-Fort Wayne taking down Quincy and some MIVA action in 5 sets. You had Lincoln Memorial taking down North Greenville in straight sets, which that's a solid win for Lincoln Memorial right there. And then on Saturday, we had Princeton taking down Damon in 4 sets. Fairleigh Dickinson pulling off a reverse sweep against LIU. Very good reverse sweep right there for the Knights, for Carl Francis squad right there. You had Belmont Abbey taking down Erskine. Mount Olive took down King in straight sets. Lindenwood took down Purdue-Fort Wayne. That's a good win right there. Ball State took down Queens of North Carolina in 4 sets. Ball State actually did have to go 5 with Queens in the first match. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, that was a very intense match right there. I was under the impression that Queens was going to pull off probably their biggest win of the season, if not biggest win of their program. But Ball State was able to escape with a 5-set win 2 nights ago, and they pulled off a 4-set win over Queens on the road. UC Irvine took down George Mason in straight sets. Solid win for the Anteaters. That could have easily been a trap match because George Mason is a tough place to win at. But UC Irvine obviously had Hilaire Heno leading the way. Like, dude is still balling out and whatnot. And you got to remember, George Mason is a solid opponent because this week UC Irvine plays Long Beach State, and they could have easily overlooked George Mason, but honestly they didn't. And UC Irvine just stood on top of business against George Mason. And then Merrimack pulled off a nice little reverse sweep over Dominican of New York. That's a nice win for Merrimack. It was their senior night, and they managed to pull off a very impressive comeback win with the 5th set being decided 15-13. Speaking of sets, 5th sets decided 15-13, you had Lewis taking down the Ohio State in 5 sets. It wasn't an upset, but it was a solid win for the Flyers, as Lewis is still kind of in that hunt for the MIVA regular season championship. But they're going to need a lot of help along the way. They're going to need Loyola to slip up. They're going to need McKendree to slip up, and so on and so forth. Speaking of MIVA teams going the distance and winning, you had Loyola Chicago, number 8 in the nation, taking down CSUN, number 7 in the nation, in 5 sets. This was my match of the week, and Loyola Chicago and CSUN did not disappoint, as Loyola Chicago actually lost the first set 25-23 as the server was out of rotation, and eventually that was a point to CSUN as they took that set. Then Loyola took the next two sets, and then CSUN took the fourth set, and Loyola Chicago wound up winning the fifth set in overtime. I think it was 18-16, but regardless, Loyola Chicago, I think it's high time we start reclassifying Loyola Chicago as a threat. They are one of the few teams that have knocked off McKendree, but ever since that loss to Loyola, McKendree has not lost ever since. So I think Loyola can still challenge McKendree. I think the MIVA is going to be decided by McKendree, and it's going to be decided between McKendree and Loyola. I think those two can be interchangeable at the 1-2 position. I mean, it all depends. It's still any given night. I mean, you never can underestimate anybody in terms of MIVA action, especially in March. And then we had probably the biggest and most stunning upset of the week. We had Grand Canyon, number 14 in the nation, taking down number 6 BYU in Phoenix in straight sets. This was probably the biggest win of Grand Canyon post last year's team. And Grand Canyon did that. And BYU has been very consistent. They have not lost to a team outside of the top 10 until now. So this just goes to show that you have to play the game. You can never underestimate any conference opponent because everyone was probably thinking, well, Grand Canyon has lost so much to graduation and whatnot and so on and so forth. But that doesn't mean they're going to be rolling over. And you got to remember, this is a Grand Canyon team that is playing with a pair of interim coaches. Remember, Matt Worley resigned pretty much middle of the season and headed to Kansas to their women's volleyball program. But Grand Canyon pulled off a fantastic and stellar win, a huge win for the Lopes, biggest win of the season by far. So great job to the Lopes pulling off that win. I would say that this win surpasses the UCLA win, but I don't know. I mean, last year when they knocked off UCLA to win their first ever MPSF championship, I don't think it gets any bigger than that. And then Long Beach State took down NJIT in straight sets, which honestly, that was not surprising. No offense to Danny Goncalves. He is a fantastic coach. Unfortunately, they were facing off against a Long Beach team that was pulling no punches. Moni Nikolov had 5 aces, not just in the first match against NJIT, but in the second match against NJIT. It's like having a second cup of cheese on your Papa John's pizza, which makes it even more better. And also, well, before I end off, let's end off the NCAA Men's Volleyball Week 12 recap because it was a very fun week. And honestly, it was incredible if you ask me. I think that this week, even though there were a bunch of teams that were on spring break and whatnot, honestly, it was a very fun week. As Brian Francione says, good evening, Teran. What volleyball leagues are in my area? Uh-oh. So to answer that question, Brian, the VLA, but I think the VLA, it's a tough league to cover just because it has so many different seasons, not just on the men's side, but on the women's side as well. So the VLA is kind of the league that's in your area. I mean, I've been trying to push for Boston to get a volleyball team, not just in the NVA, but in the Pro Volleyball Federation or LOVB. But one day they'll get a league team, or maybe the MLV. Maybe the MLV will one day have a team in the Boston area. So, but for right now, the VLA has a team from the Boston area, so I've heard. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I don't necessarily cover the VLA. Shame on me. Sorry, Rob St. Clair. But honestly, it's a little, again, tricky to cover it just because it's always like a season round thing and whatnot. So maybe I will one day. Maybe on a down week, I'll cover VLA and whatnot. But thank you for asking that, Brian, and I appreciate you popping into the chat room. So that'll do it for the Week 12 NCAA Men's Volleyball recap. So before I continue, I actually do want to give you all a little bit of a trivia question. So the trivia question is the title of the show, Set Point Episode 291, Ramblin' Men from Chicago. If you can give me the reference to what that title is originally from, I will give you a shout out, and I will also give you some sort of prize. And it can either be in the live show of this, It could be in the post live show. It could be in the post chat room on YouTube. You can even message me on setpoint at set_point.ie on X, or you can message me on Instagram at set_point.IESR. And whoever gets to me first will be given a prize, and I'll give you a shout out if you can get that. So there's that right there. All right. So there are actually some teams that have clinched spots in their conference tournaments. So some teams play in conference tournaments that basically have everyone into the conference tournament, like the EIVA, the Big West. I'm not sure about the MPSF. I think the MPSF is going to be an 8-team bracket, but not sure. But in terms of the MIVA, teams that have clinched a spot in their conference tournament are Ohio State, Lewis, Loyola, and McKendree. And then for the Conference of Carolinas, that is Mount Olive, Belmont, Abbey, and Barton. Big thank you to Off the Block, a.k.a. Vinny Lopes, for posting that. So hat tip to him on that one. So I appreciate that. All right, but that's that for the NCAA Week 12 men's volleyball recap. So let us jump on into the AVCA Collegiate Men's Volleyball Poll. And there was quite a little bit of a shakeup, as Loyola is the biggest jump of the week, going from number 8 to number 6. You also had McKendree still staying in the top 10. Their win over Quincy on Saturday, it was a big one, actually, as they actually managed to surpass their all-time win total. They currently have 15 wins, and that's the most they've had in program history. So although it's not that much, it's going to significantly jump. There's going to be a lot more than 15 wins. I guarantee you that. So this is not the end of that. So keep an eye out for that win streak. Keep an eye out for the most number of wins that McKendree is having this season. So there you go. But for right now, it was a fun week, and I was so happy we got to see some solid NCAA men's volleyball. Again, we had Hawaii on bye, UCLA on bye, USC on bye, so on and so forth. It was a very quiet week in terms of ranked-on-ranked matches, but there you go. All right, poll time. So as you see, no more Penn State. George Mason takes over the number 20 spot. Princeton is all alone at number 19, but Penn State is out of the AVCA National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Poll. For the first time in 92 weeks, Penn State is not ranked. And this is the first time, not just in 91 weeks, but in 644 days, Penn State had been ranked in the AVCA top 20. They are no longer in the AVCA top 20. And believe it or not, Mount Olive actually has more votes received than Penn State. So tough times for former Set Point guest Mark Pavlik and the Nittany Lions. I mean, they're going to be back in action. They were also on bye as well, but they're back in action this week. So keep an eye on Penn State. But George Mason is number 20. So someone actually said, just what notable standout wins does George Mason have? They actually do have one. And that is against NJIT, which was ranked at the time against George Mason. So the two teams split their regular season series. George Mason lost the first match and then won the second against NJIT. And NJIT, like I mentioned, they were ranked at the time when they took on George Mason the second go around. So honestly, that was big right there for George Mason to be ranked yet again. But I understand what people are saying. Mount Olive should be ranked. Well, again, Mount Olive would be ranked if they have a win against a team that is either receiving votes or that is currently ranked. They do play Lincoln Memorial next week, and I will definitely tell y'all to keep an eye on that matchup. But for right now, Mount Olive, their two losses aren't anything to ultimately sneeze at as well. They lost a marathon of a 5-setter to Lewis, which they actually had the opportunity to take down Lewis, which probably would have been their biggest win of its program's history. But unfortunately, they fell short. And then they lost in straight sets to Loyola, which now it's not looking like a bad loss. But unfortunately for Mount Olive fans and for those that want to see Mount Olive ranked, you're going to have to wait for a little bit. The only way I can see Mount Olive jumping George Mason in the standings is if George Mason has a bad loss this week, and then Mount Olive just continues to win. Or Mount Olive beats Lincoln Memorial, and then they bump George Mason out of the top 20. But at the same time, that can also mean bumping Lincoln Memorial out. But Lincoln Memorial did jump up to number 16, so good job to the Rail Splitters. They only have one loss, which was to UC San Diego, so no harm, no foul in that. All right, but that is that for the AVCA Men's Volleyball National Collegiate Poll. So now for the off-the-block media poll from last week. So it was pretty much straightforward. Long Beach State 1, UCLA 2, USC 3, Hawaii 4, UC Irvine 5, BYU 6, CSUN 7. I didn't put Loyola at 8. I thought I could have sworn I put Loyola at 8, but let me just fix that really quick. There we go. Loyola is at number 8, McKendree 9, and Pepperdine 10. I put USC, and that is pretty much what my vote looked like. I pretty much had the exact same vote as the ballot. No, there were other people that voted on the off the block media poll, but I put the exact same things. I put Loyola 8. I put USC at 3. I put BYU 6, CSUN 7, McKendree 9, Pepperdine 10, so on and so forth. So who did I vote for this week in this week's Off the Block media poll? I pretty much have it the same way, except I flipped Loyola and I flipped, oh God, I screwed up again. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I got to fix number 8. Bam, bam, bam. Oh. Bam, bam, bam. Kablamo. So I put BYU 8, Loyola 6, and CSUN 7. And then everything else is pretty much the same. So I'm pretty sure after BYU's loss to Grand Canyon, they should be going down to 8. I don't know if we could put them behind McKendree, but I think BYU, I mean, they went 5 with Hawaii, USC, and UC Irvine. But unfortunately, they succumbed to those teams, not once, but twice. But, I mean, you could maybe make the argument. I mean, most people will want to put McKendree at number 8 just because McKendree is everyone's favorite team. But they also got to take into consideration the other McKendree's losses to some of the better teams like UC San Diego, Hawaii twice, Long Beach State, so on and so forth. And they also, if I recall correctly, I think McKendree almost lost to Rockwell. But enough on the negatives. Let's talk about the positives. McKendree is in the off the block top 10 poll, and I voted them there, so on and so forth. There you go. So the off the block media poll from last week compared to this week, it's just me flipping Loyola and BYU. All right, so that is that for the AVCA and off the block polls right there, and then. So I actually forgot to add this banner. Silly me, but let us do this really quick. Boom. Week 13 preview. We're just gonna do a little magic here. Sorry to everybody. Please bear with me. Week 13 preview. So we got the week 12 recap done. Now it's time for the week 13 preview. So week 13, I mean, Tuesday we have UC Santa Barbara at Cal Lutheran, Edward Waters at Warner, Central State at Lees McRae. Wednesday we have Catawba at Benedict, King of Tennessee at Tusculum, Roosevelt at Wisconsin Stevens Point. Jumping over to Thursday, now we got some good and fun matchups. We have, I think all 5 of these matchups can be pretty good. So we'll start off with the MEVO. McKendree at Ohio State. All right, round 2 between the Buckeyes and the Bearcats. Let's see if the Buckeyes can actually win on their home floor against McKendree. But McKendree is red hot. They have won 11 straight. They are continuing to make history. Like, Ohio State's going to need a lot more than just Shane Wetzel to slow this McKendree team down. They're going to need a lot to slow down the likes of Nate Flater and so on and so forth. Yadiel Diaz, etc., etc. And then we have Queens at Lewis. All right, another good MEVA matchup right here. I think this one could be sneaky good. If Queens can play the same way they did against Ball State, I think they could take down Lewis. But it is so tough to win in Romeoville. Like I said, Lewis is one of the more tougher gyms to win at in men's volleyball. So if Queens is going to be thinking they're going to get a free win or an easy win, they got another thing coming. Lewis is obviously coming off of that big 5-set win. I think Lewis is going to be battle tested after having 5-set matches against Ohio State and CSUN. And then we have another sneaky good MIVA matchup, Lindenwood at Loyola. Loyola could ill afford any more losses if they want to become the top seed of the MIVA tournament, because Loyola actually does have the tiebreaker over McKendree in sets overall won, or difference of sets won and lost. So I think Loyola, if they can get a little help from another MIVA team, then maybe Loyola can sneak into that number 1 spot of the MIVA tournament. And if Loyola can run the table, then they could probably win that MIVA tournament number 1 seed. But for right now, McKendree's in the driver's seat. All right, jumping to the MPSF on Thursday, we have Concordia Irvine at Vanguard. Yeah, so with these two being outlier teams or new teams, they'll be facing each other more times than not. They're not going to be facing like the Stanfords or the UCLAs or the SCs. They're not going to be facing the primary teams in their first year. So Concordia was nice enough to give Vanguard and Menlo some reps in terms of the MPSF. So this one's going to be a sneaky good matchup. I mean, Vanguard, Concordia Irvine, like I mentioned, they were both NAIA teams. They're both bitter rivals. So I think this one's going to be fun. And then we got a nice little top 10 matchup here. We have number 2 UCLA hosting Pepperdine, which is number 10, if I recall correctly, when it comes to the AVCA men's volleyball coaches poll. I can't believe I forgot again. They're number 9. So number 9, Pepperdine at number 2, UCLA. This one I think can be fun. I mean, Pepperdine, look, it's cute that they were able to take Long Beach State to 5, and it's cute that they wound up beating Menlo twice, but they're playing at UCLA. They're facing some big-time opponent here. They're playing the big boys here. Excuse me while I take a sip of water. But yeah, UCLA coming off of a week-long rest of spring break, I think UCLA can really come fired up against the Waves. Now, they shouldn't underestimate Pepperdine by any means. Pepperdine is still a pretty good team, and they did take Long Beach State to 5. And that's probably their saving grace. However, it's fair to say UCLA should win this one. I mean, no team other than Long Beach State has had an answer for the Bruins at Pauley Pavilion. So you have that right there. I was almost going to touch my phone or /camera, but I didn't. All right, Friday, notable matches. George Mason at Harvard. That can really decide if Harvard is ranked at number 20 or George Mason is ranked at number 20. I think you can put it either or when it comes to those two. I mean, Harvard's got a win over previously ranked Penn State. George Mason has a win over NJIT. I think this George Mason-Harvard series is going to be big time. And then Penn State hosts Charleston. I mean, Penn State now has to start a new streak of being ranked, but they are well under 500, so they got a lot of picking up the pieces to do. And Princeton plays at Sacred Heart. UC Santa Barbara at CSUN. That's going to be a fun matchup right there. Santa Barbara needs some sort of big breakout win. They haven't gotten one ever since they beat GCU. So let's see what the Gauchos have in store for us. Then you got Lindenwood at Loyola Chicago round 2. Grand Canyon at USC is on Friday and on Saturday. All right, well, if it weren't for another big-time matchup, which I'll be getting into in a little bit, I would totally go to Grand Canyon at USC. But the big match of this week, the big match and series of this week is UC Irvine and Long Beach State. So UC Irvine and Long Beach State plays at Long Beach State on Friday, and then the series shifts to UC Irvine or the Brent Event Center on Saturday. All right, it is number 4 versus number 1. If UC Irvine doesn't beat Long Beach State, the only team that can beat them is probably Hawaii, and for good reason, because it's at Hawaii. But I think Irvine definitely has a good shot at beating Long Beach State. No one's had the answer for Long Beach State, hence why they're undefeated, and they've snatched every first place vote in every poll possible. But UC Irvine, this is their chance to try to get back into the top 3 and to really prove themselves as a possible at-large team, because Long Beach State, at the rate that they're going, I think Long Beach State could definitely and very well win the Big West Conference Championship. But they know they can't. They got to stay humble, and they can't get ahead of themselves because Hawaii is big time. They got UC San Diego still on the docket. They still have to play UC Santa Barbara. This UC Irvine team is going to really test Long Beach State, and I can't wait for it. Then you got Stanford at Menlo in the MPSF on Friday. And also on Friday, to close off Friday, we have UC San Diego at Hawaii. Well, I mean, I really want to give UC San Diego a chance because they already have a top 10 win of the season. Can they pick up a top 5 win? That depends. I mean, Hawaii probably still has the loss to UC San Diego to end the regular season fresh in the back of their minds. I mean, it would be a big win for UC San Diego if they were to take down Hawaii, but let's be honest, they're playing at Hawaii. Hawaii is coming off of a loss and 1 week of rest. So I would be stunned if Hawaii lost to UC San Diego. But UC San Diego is not ranked number 11 for nothing. I think UC San Diego can really push Hawaii. But they're going to have to play some darn perfect volleyball on the road against Hawaii. And remember, this is a Hawaii team that is young but very talented and very dangerous. So don't even think for a second that Hawaii is going to be letting up. And they know how big of a win that could be against UC San Diego, because it would still keep them in first place in the Big West with Long Beach State. So there you go. All right, 2 Saturdays matches. George Mason, Harvard round 2. That's a good one. Queens at Lewis, like I mentioned, that's a pretty good matchup. It's a sneaky good matchup right there. You have UCLA at Pepperdine. So remember when I said UCLA and Pepperdine is going to be a good matchup? Well, this time the series shifts to Malibu as Pepperdine, number 9 in the nation, will host number 2 UCLA. Again, Pepperdine, and it's actually good that UCLA plays Pepperdine because Pepperdine is actually hosting the MPSF tournament, which hopefully I'll be able to go to. That's going to be another big thing right there, just because I can't pass up that opportunity. But UCLA Pepperdine, I think it'd be a good matchup. I mean, we're going to see what Pepperdine can really do against another top 3 team. I mean, they got swept by UC Irvine. Well, not top 3, but they were top 5. But you get what I'm trying to say. Let's see what they can do against another top 5 team, let alone a top 3 team. They took Long Beach State to 5. They got swept by UC Irvine. They're going to be playing USC next week. They don't play Hawaii. So we want to see what they can do against UCLA, and hopefully for Pepperdine's sake, they can really impress. Then Grand Canyon USC round 2. Again, USC is coming off of a nice 3-game win streak in Hawaii, and they still have their other wins against BYU. I think they've won 7 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So not Long Beach State, USC, they're starting to become really dangerous. And the scary thing is that they're starting 3 freshmen. They're starting Sterling Foley on outside, Parker Tompkinson at middle, and Johnny Dykstra at libero. And Caleb Blanchett is only a sophomore as well. Dylan Klein is a junior. Their only upperclassmen are Guy Genis and Jack Duker. But I'm pretty sure USC will be in good hands when they graduate Duker, and then Noah Roberts steps in on the right side. And then I'm sure they've got another middle blocker waiting in the wings. They have Wes Smith, but he has yet to see action. I mean, Wes Smith, I think it was a great player last year, and then unfortunately the poor fella got hurt, and he kind of lost out on that spot to other players like Marcus Olson and whatnot. So there you have it right there. And then you got Concordia Irvine at Vanguard round 4 technically. So, and then Long Beach State, UC Irvine at the Brent Event Center. That's going to be another fun one. And then CSUN at UC Santa Barbara. That's going to be yet another fun one. And then also on Saturday, UC San Diego at Hawaii round 2. Again, UC San Diego is going to need to play some really good volleyball if they want to pull off their first top 5 win in a hot minute. So there you have it right there. That is going to do it for the NCAA men's volleyball portion of the show. God, almost 45 minutes in when it comes to this whole thing. So we're going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got some NCAA beach volleyball to discuss. And then we've got a little bit of some PVF and LOVB. Then we've got some high school boys volleyball and some 3C2A men's volleyball. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point, here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Galise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate, diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold, have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Galise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Cincinnati Sports and the Inns Report. We are back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of that sports. All right, let's talk some NCAA beach volleyball as we are going to recap week 5 of the beach volleyball season. Actually, let's talk a little bit of some NAI men's volleyball, just to briefly tell you all that the Masters College is still undefeated. The Masters College is still unbeaten, and not much is going to slow them down. Heck, I don't even think they face a top 10 opponent in NAI men's volleyball. So the Masters College is kicking butt and taking names. And honestly, it's only a matter of time before the Masters College gets moved up to Division 1-2 in men's volleyball, or Division 2 altogether in terms of athletics, but I digress. So I want to get that out of the way just because the Masters College is just kicking butt and taking names. They've beaten some NCAA teams this season. They've taken down Vanguard, Concordia Irvine. They took down Stanford, which was so impressive. And the list goes on, and the Masters College is not slowing down for anybody. All right, beach volleyball time. So in terms of beach volleyball, we had a nice little matinee matchup on Tuesday. We had number 3 TCU taking on number 4 USC, which we're actually about to go over the National Collegiate Beach Volleyball poll. So TCU actually got a first place vote after their stellar weekend, where everyone is wondering, well, why is USC number 4? Well, you're about to find out why. But yeah, again, USC almost lost, and they lost to Cal that one week, while TCU still remained unbeaten. Or TCU went unbeaten at home in that TCU Invitational that I went to. So LMU and UCLA are still number 2 and number 1. TCU, they received a first place vote. USC is 4, Stanford's 5, Cal Poly 6, so on and so forth. Long Beach State is back up to number 8. Cal actually, remember how Cal lost to Texas? Well, Texas kind of knocked Cal down a couple pegs, but didn't overtake them, which was pretty impressive, or pretty mind-boggling if you ask me. GCU jumped up a few spots as well, and so on and so forth. That's pretty much that for the AVCA Collegiate Beach Volleyball poll. So now we get to recap this TCU-USC matchup. So TCU-USC, this was a fun one. It came down to the final match of the duel, but TCU managed to win by a nose. They wound up winning 3-2. Number 3 takes down number 4. Amazing win for the Horned Frogs as they avenged their previous loss to the Trojans. So that was a very good duel right there between those two teams. And honestly, TCU, they're looking pretty darn good if you ask me. And I mean, again, for USC, they're still trying to get used to not having the Norse twins, Megan Kraft and Delaney Maple, and so on and so forth. But they're still trying to figure things out. So Rome isn't built in a day, and the post Norse / Torrey Pines girls, yes, that's where Delaney Maple and Megan Kraft went to high school and are pretty much from that area, but I digress. So it's tough not having those players around and whatnot, but honestly, if USC will probably play their best volleyball when it comes to the later of the season. Do I still see them possibly vying for a national championship? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that USC is going to be vying for a national championship. But they're certainly not the same USC team as they were in the past. And then also on Wednesday, you had nothing too big. I mean, Nebraska had its last week of college matches where they actually edged out CSUN, which I thought was pretty cool if you ask me. But Nebraska, for those that don't know, Nebraska doesn't play the collegiate beach volleyball. The beach volleyball for Nebraska volleyball is basically the off-season for its indoor team. And then after the beach portion, then they go back to indoor training, and then they also work out and do conditioning and whatnot, from what Jalen Reyes told me. And then once teams report, that's when Nebraska can go full force. But I just want to throw that out there right now. I mean, they actually have been doing pretty solid in beach volleyball play. I mean, again, they haven't beaten the most eye-popping teams, but honestly, at least they're getting training in and they're not sitting on their butts doing nothing. They're facing other opponents in different circumstances. Anyway, jumping over to Friday, we had LMU taking down FIU in the sweep, which I thought was pretty good. Stetson took down Erskine. That's not too surprising. You had LMU taking down Georgia State in another sweep. Florida State swept FAU. Very good win right there. You had Grand Canyon. The Battle of the Purple went to Grand Canyon as they took down LSU 3-2, which I thought was a very good win by the Lopes. Probably one of their more bigger wins in program history. As LSU is just not the same LSU ever since last season. And I feel bad for LSU, but here's my thing for LSU. The season is not over yet. As long as they can get into that tournament, they're still in it to win it. And remember, this is the same LSU team. I don't know if they lost Ella Larkin to USC, but this is an LSU team that wound up making the semifinals as the 6th seed, as they knocked off Stanford and eventually challenged UCLA until UCLA eventually just shut the door on LSU. So consider LSU stirred and not shaken. And then we had another good matchup. We had Arizona State taking down FIU 3-2, which I thought was pretty darn cool if you ask me. Florida State took down Stetson in straight sets, straight 5-0. Then you had Texas taking down Grand Canyon 4-1. That's a nice win right there. Concordia Irvine took down Pepperdine. That was in another matchup outside of the East meets West. You had LSU taking down Cal in an upset 3-2. That was a very good win for the Tigers. Nice bounce back win right there. Speaking of Cal, they managed to get their lick back against Texas. They managed to take down the Longhorns 3-2. It came down to the final court, but the Golden Bears were able to get revenge on Texas, which, man, that's got to hurt if you're Texas. But you're about to see that's not going to ultimately matter. And then Cal Poly took down Hawaii, which was not too big of a surprise. Cal Poly is stacked this year. I mean, they're so stacked. It's so tough to predict which players they're going to use in some of their matches. I mean, sometimes they'll switch up their fives pair and then fours pair and so on and so forth. It all depends on the opponent they're also playing too. And then you had Florida State taking down Erskine. That's not surprising. Grand Canyon edged Georgia State 3-2. That was a good win. LMU edged LSU 3-2, though LMU clinched the duel before LSU can get that second point. Then you had Cal taking down FIU 3-2. Stetson took down Florida Atlantic 3-2. That's a nice win for Stetson. That's a good, Stetson is probably one of those underrated teams that people seem to forget about. So I think underestimate Stetson at your own peril, because remember, this is a Stetson team that took down the number 1 overall seed USC. I think it was in 2018 or 19, but it was one of those years where UCLA wound up winning it all, but I digress. And then Boise State wound up winning the regular season conference championship. I think it's the Southeastern Conference Championship. I am not entirely sure of that, but Boise State did wound up winning its regular season conference championship. So good job to my friends down at Boise State Beach Volleyball, just because, well, they kind of got me in my first break, and they're really cool. So the SLC regular season champions. So yeah, it was a great weekend for the Southland Conference. So Boise State wound up winning the Southland Conference regular season championship. Hopefully, for their sake, they can win the Southland Conference tournament and clinch that automatic qualifier. Anyway, back to the action at hand. We had Florida State taking down Palm Beach Atlantic. Okay, that's not too surprising. They swept them. Grand Canyon took down FIU 3-2. A lot of close matches, which I totally like. LSU took down Arizona State 3-2. Nice little mini upset for LSU. This was the big upset. We had number 10 Texas taking down number 2 LMU for its new highest ranked win in program history. It's their first top 5 win in program history, their first top 2 ranked win in program history, and their newest highest ranked win in program history. They also mentioned that Texas overall went 3-1 the whole weekend, and their lone loss was to Cal. And man, Stein Metzger has his team believing that they can contend and beat some of these bigger, better, more experienced teams, which I think is incredible. So Texas is not just good in indoor volleyball. They're good in beach volleyball. And one of the reasons why is Stein Metzger. He's really changed the culture of that program. So if anyone deserves a lot of credit, it is Stein. Oh, and Texas also beat Arizona State 4-1, which that's also a pretty good win if you ask me. So there you go. Then we also had number 6 Cal Poly taking down number 8 Long Beach State 4-1 in the Big West Challenge, which Cal Poly wound up going 4-0. I want to say Long Beach State took down Hawaii in terms of beach volleyball. I didn't get a chance to really see that matchup, which is unfortunate. But I mean, Hawaii is kind of in a little bit of a down year, but honestly, yeah, they didn't lose to Long Beach State. They lost to Long Beach State 4-1 to end off the Big West Challenge. But yeah, Cal Poly technically wound up winning the Big West Conference regular season if they can take that into consideration. So Cal Poly, I imagine, will be the 1 seed of the Big West Conference Championships. Long Beach State 2, Hawaii 3, and so on and so forth down the line. But yeah, Cal Poly is going to be the class of the Big West, with Long Beach State not too far behind. I forget the name. It's like Haganah, and the other girl's first name is Malia. But Long Beach State's pair was named AVCA Beach Pair of the Week, and they just recently surpassed 75 wins as a pair, which I think is pretty darn cool if you ask me. But I want to give Long Beach State Beach Volleyball their flowers, because I don't really give out their beach. I don't really give a whole lot of flowers. So it's Malia Gemantera and Taylor Haganaw of Long Beach State Beach Volleyball. They went 6-0 at the Big West Conference Challenge or the Big West Challenge, including 2 victories over 2 ranked teams, which was obviously Cal Poly and Hawaii. So congrats to Malia Gemantera and Taylor Haganaw on ABCA Player of the Week. Unfortunately, Long Beach State did not take down Cal Poly, but when it comes to Cal Poly and Long Beach State in the Big West Conference Championships, sometimes Long Beach State seems to have the number for Cal Poly, but only time will tell. And Sunday Sunday was the official day that Boise State wound up winning the Southland regular season conference championship. And then that was when Long Beach State took down Hawaii as well. So I'm getting ahead of myself when it comes to these days. I'm sorry, people. But Boise State taking down Texas A&M Corpus Christi 3-2 is a little misguiding, as Boise State took down Texas A&M Corpus Christi 3-0, but then they just pretty much decided to play out the rest of the matches. So Boise State clinched the duel well before Texas A&M Corpus Christi got on the board. So Boise State is looking pretty darn good, and some of their early losses are starting to translate to them playing hard, because they almost beat FAU. They challenged Texas for the most part, and they were competitive against Florida State back when I saw them at TCU. So, and obviously their ones pair, Ava and Addie, are just fantastic. So you have that right there. All right, now let's go to the NCAA Beach Volleyball Week 6 preview, as we are already an hour into this, and I have yet to get to the LOVB and PBF. Anyway, calm yourself, Teran. So Arizona State play each other on Wednesday. I mean, maybe that'll be a good matchup, but Arizona State is darn good. And then Stanford, Texas, that plays on Friday. That's going to be a very fun matchup. Florida State, UCLA. I mean, Florida State's good, but they're too young and inexperienced, and I feel UCLA is probably going to get the better of them, but you never know. USC, UCLA, or not UCLA, USC, LSU, and then TCU, UCLA. Those are some 2 good matchups right there. And I'm not sure if that's the Death Volley Invitational, which takes place at LSU. And that's emceed by Mark. Oh, God, I am blanking on this guy's name. My bad, everybody. I'm blanking on the AVP PA announcer's name. It's like Mark something. It's like Mark Tanneman. Oh, whatever. So TCU Stanford, that's it. That's going to be another amazing matchup right there. And that is pretty much it. I mean, Florida State Stanford, another good matchup. Washington Arizona State, that can kind of be a good matchup. Long Beach State TCU, well, I mean, Long Beach State's good, but will they be good enough to take down TCU? That's going to be my big question right there. I mean, that's going to really test Long Beach State. And I think playing an opponent like TCU is why Long Beach State scheduled them, so that they can prepare themselves for when they play the likes of Cal Poly or Hawaii in the Big West Championships or sometime down the road. All right, Saturday we have Texas UCLA, another Stein-Metzger matchup as he faces his former team, which is now coached by Jenny Johnson-Jordan. Then you got TCU USC round 3. That's going to be very fun. That's going to be a very fun matchup right there. You got Stanford LSU, another good matchup right there. Long Beach State Florida State. Okay, if there's ever a top 10 team that Long Beach State will beat that's not named Cal, that might be the team. Florida State is good on paper, but Long Beach State has a lot of returning players, a lot of experience. Florida State is still fairly young. I mean, they're good, but Long Beach State, that could be maybe be their biggest win in a hot minute. But we shall see. And that could actually have a lot of seeding implications for the National Collegiate Beach Volleyball Tournament, which will be taking place in Gulf Shores, which the California guy in me is so heartbroken, but I digress. Then you got Texas USC. Oh, if there's ever a team that Stein-Metzger would like to beat at Texas, USC is that team. He would be licking his lips if he saw a win over USC, Because remember, Stein Metzger is a UCLA alum, and he used to coach beach volleyball at UCLA. So he knows all too well about the wins and losses against USC. And Long Beach State plays LSU. LSU might be able to take Long Beach State down, but with the way Long Beach State's playing with Malia and Taylor playing at their pairs, I don't know if Long Beach State will be losing to LSU. I think we could see LSU lose to Long Beach State, but you never know. That wouldn't be an upset. But for me, I kind of would translate that as an upset, just because Long Beach State, when it comes to facing teams like that, they never really beat those type of teams. But now they have a chance to prove themselves as one of the more alpha females. As Dre Area Sports, a.k.a. Andre Fernandez, says, "What's up, Teran? Just naming off some beach volleyball matches to watch for. It's going to be a very fun week, as Stanford has a big challenge this week as well against some pretty darn good teams." All right, but that is that for some NCAA beach volleyball action, as it's going to be a very good week. So time to recap and preview some PVF in terms of professional women's volleyball as I take a quick little drink of water. Told y'all I wasn't going to be holding back, and now that I am not in my brother's apartment, I can be a little bit more louder and more voiced than I normally was. So week 11 of the PVF started on Wednesday, where the Orlando Valkyries took down the San Diego Mojo in 4 sets. All right, well, this was kind of expected. If Orlando lost to San Diego again, I think we would have had problems here. But Orlando took care of business. I thought they were pretty strong for the most part. I mean, they wound up winning the first 2 sets in close fashion, and then they lost the 3rd set in close fashion, and then just blew by San Diego in the 4th set. As leading Orlando in the victory was Brittany Abercrombie, who had 15 kills. Orlando as a team had 5 different players with 10 or more kills. That's pretty darn good in terms of balancing things out. As Champu Gudapard, she had 56 assists with 14 digs. Then you had Courtney Schwann with 16 digs to go along with 13 kills. You had Lindsay Vanderweide with 17 digs to go along with 11 kills. So impressive night for Orlando as they kind of got their lick back against the Mojo. Meanwhile, for San Diego, they were led by Ronica Stone, who had 11 kills. Marie Shara Venegas had 22 digs. Maya Tabron led the way with 15 kills. So, yeah, that's pretty much describing San Diego's season. They got some good contributions, but it just wasn't meant to be. So next up, we had the Indy Ignite outlasting the Columbus Fury in 5 sets. Indy took the first 2 sets, Columbus took the next 2 sets, and then Indy outlasted Columbus in the 5th set, 15-13. So it's a nice win for Indy, defending their home floor, as Indy was led by Azani Taylor, who had 17 kills. Carly Scott and Lydia Martin both had 16 kills. Anna DeBeer, 15 kills. And Caroline Crawford, 12 kills. Just like the Orlando Valkyries, the Indy Ignite had 5 different players with 10-plus kills. The only difference is that Orlando accomplished that feat in a 4-set match. Nothing against Indy, but they had to go 5. And this could have easily been decided in 3 or 4. Sydney Healy had 68 assists and 11 digs. So for Columbus, it's just one of those. This is kind of going to best describe their season. So close yet so far, as Raina Terry led the way with 18 kills and 10 digs. You had Isabella Rapax, who had 17 kills. And then you had Wilma Rivera, 45 assists and 13 digs. Kate Georgiadis had 22 digs. But it just wasn't enough, as Indy just was able to pull out the win. And then we had, for the first time in practically 2 months, you had the Vegas Thrill finally pulling off a win. They wound up beating the Grand Rapids Rise in 4 sets. They dropped the first set 31-29. they wound up winning set 2 in overtime 27-25. On the third set, 25-22, and wound up winning the fourth set 27-25. That snapped, I think it was a 7 or 8 match losing streak. And now the Vegas Thrill are back in the win column. Thank goodness for their sake. And that would have been disastrous if they had just continued to spin out of control, as Charity Looper led the way for Vegas with 23 kills. Hannah Maddox had 18 kills. And then for the Grand Rapids Rise, they were led by Paige Briggs-Romine as well as Naya Scheim, both having 12 kills. It wasn't enough, as the Rise unfortunately fell to the Thrill, but the Thrill needed that win in the worst way. Now we talk about teams that also need wins in the worst way, being the Atlanta Vibe, as they tried to vibe their way back to the top. They actually did so as they wound up taking down the Orlando Valkyries in 4 sets. They lost the first set 25-21, but wound up winning the next 3 as Atlanta defended its home court. Atlanta was led by Leah Edmond, who had 15 kills. Aiko Jones and Pia Timmer had 11 kills. Morgan Hentz had 23 digs, and Leah Edmond also chipped in 14 digs as well. For Orlando, they were led by Kaz Brown, who had 11 kills. Brittany Abercrombie only had 8 kills, but she hit less than 100, so not good. She also had 10 digs, but yeah, when Brittany Abercrombie is not on, Orlando kind of breaks down. Lindsay Vanderweide added 9 kills. So that is the loss that Orlando was not hoping for. That is an ill-timed loss. But fortunately, that loss isn't as bad, as the Indy Ignite managed to do what they haven't been able to do against the Omaha Supernovas, beat them. But Indy finally broke through. They finally took down the Omaha Supernovas for the first time in its team's existence, as they wound up sweeping the Omaha Supernovas in CHI Health Center, which is pretty darn impressive. You never see Omaha getting swept at CHI Health Center. They've only been swept twice. That time against Indy, and then that previous time this season against the Orlando Valkyries. They never really get swept a whole lot altogether, as Sydney Hilly got her revenge game against Omaha. She had 40 assists and 7 digs. Leading Indian kills was Azani Teeler, who had 19 kills. In a 3-set match, that's pretty impressive. But she was the only double-digit kill leader for the Ignite. But hey, it still translates into a win. She almost had half the kills that Ignite had as a whole. Meanwhile, for Omaha, they were led by Brooke Nunaviller, who had 13 kills. But that was pretty much that, as she was their only double-digit kill leader. Emily Londot had 9 kills for the Supernovas. And then Sunday, being yesterday, we had the Atlanta Vibe sweeping the Columbus Fury. Long story short, I figured Atlanta was going to win this one, and they are on a roll. Don't look now, but don't let the vibe get hot. Like, don't kill their vibe, because otherwise they will be, dare I say it, killing you with volleyballs. That was bad. Anyway, Pia Timmer led the way for Atlanta with 11 kills. And that was pretty much that for their... Oh, no, she wasn't the one that led the team in kills. Corey Lewis was the one that led the Vibe in kills. She had 12 kills. Timmer had 11 kills. So overall, it was an efficient night for Atlanta. Meanwhile, for Columbus, they were led by Raina Terry, who had 11 kills. She's having a nice little bit of a PVF debut season, so good for her. Unfortunately, it does not translate into wins, and Atlanta, don't look now, but Atlanta is getting red hot, and they're not too far off from second place. They are a half a game behind second place, and having played more matches than Omaha, they're kind of a little bit behind Omaha, but man, if Atlanta had a few more of those losses turned into wins, then Atlanta might be in first place. But Atlanta's starting to become the Atlanta team that we all were expecting to be. And it looks like the playoff picture is starting to get a little bit more clear. But don't let Vegas get hot, because now they kind of got some renewed confidence after finally winning for the first time in what seemed like forever. So the PVF Week 12 starts on Friday with San Diego Mojo at Atlanta Vibe. Well, the Vibe have got to keep up their winning ways. They can ill afford another loss, because if they want to get to first or at least second, they got to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, such as this one. Then they're also on Friday. Well, we actually have not just a doubleheader, but we have a triple header. We have the Columbus Fury at the Grand Rapids Rise. All right, well, if the Rise want to have any sort of hope of making the postseason, they're going to need to get hot, and they're going to need to beat the Fury. If they don't beat the Fury, they don't deserve to make the playoffs. And then also on Friday, to close off Friday's slate, we have the Vegas Thrill at the Omaha Supernovas. All right, well, look, this is the battle of two tales of different teams. You got Omaha, which wound up losing in straight sets to Indy, and then you got the Thrill, which are back in the W column. If the Thrill want to have any sort of hope of making the playoffs, they're going to need to start beating teams that are above their weight. In other words, they're going to have to start pulling off some upsets. I think they can beat Omaha, but Omaha will not take this loss lying down. They will not take losing to the Indy Ignite lying down. Then we have a quadruple header this Sunday, as we have the Indy Ignite at the Orlando Valkyries. That could be so decisive for both teams. Indy could grip Indy's grip on fourth place, which would be the final playoff spot in the PVF, would grow tighter, while Orlando can creep even closer to Omaha. So two big time teams fighting for two different stakes in terms of the playoff seeding, possibly. Then you also got the Columbus Fury at Atlanta Vibe. Well, I mean, the Vibe, like I mentioned, this could very well be a fairly, I would say, it's a very manageable week for the Vibe. All they cannot do is underestimate their opponent or overlook their opponent. Then you got Grand Rapids Rise at Omaha Supernovas. Okay, if this could, the Thrill match might be a little bit tougher. I'm certain Omaha can beat the Rise. I would be surprised if Omaha did not beat the Rise, but I think Omaha should be able to handle business at home. Again, you rarely see Omaha losing 2 or 3 matches in a row. Then you also have the Vegas Thrill hosting the San Diego Mojo. Again, for the Thrill, they can ill afford too many bad losses at this point, just because the Thrill need to get back in that playoff hunt, and they need to make up a lot of ground after having that 7-match losing streak. But now's the time for them to start winning. And that pretty much is that. Only 2 days of PVF in terms of week 12. So now let's jump on into LOVB week 11. All right, week 11 in terms of LOVB. Well, it seems like it does not get much better for this team, but we'll talk about them a little bit later. So week 11 actually kicks off with LOVB Madison outlasting LOVB Salt Lake in 5 sets. And just like that, Madison has won, they've won 5 straight? It's either 5 straight or 6 straight. Regardless, they are just on a tear. They were the bottom dweller of the PVF. Now they are climbing, they're moving on up to the east side. So that was actually their 4th straight win. So Madison was just very impressive when it came to that win. And the 4th set was actually decided 32-30. They were down 24-21, tied it up at 24 apiece, and eventually wound up winning that 4th set and eventually rode the momentum to win the 5th set and keep its win streak alive. Holy guacamole. And actually, it was their 5th straight win. I'm sorry. So it was their 5th straight win because that was their only match of the week. So a great win for Madison, especially winning on the road. Remember, this is a Madison team that has no more home games the rest of the way. So now they got to be road warriors. And that was a good win to win at Madison. And then week 11 saw the weekend with LOVB at Omaha, as you had LOVB Austin take it down LOVB Omaha in 5 sets. And man, poor Omaha. This is a very good team, but they just are in a massive losing funk, as they wound up losing to Austin in the 5th set, 18-16. My goodness. Like, if that's got to be like the biggest slap in the face for Omaha this season. Like, they were on such a hot streak and they were looking pretty darn good and scary, but now they have gone the other way and it is not good. Sorry, Omaha fans. And then Saturday we had LOVB Atlanta sweeping LOVB Austin. I mean, LOVB Austin had to go 5 with Omaha and they went overtime in that 5th set. there was no way. The deck was very stacked against Austin. And this kind of begs the question. Should LOVB move the weekend with LOVB to like maybe Thursday and Saturday, or maybe Friday and Sunday? I mean, they'd still have to be competing with the NFL at that point, and then they start the season. Or maybe they start the week on Wednesday, then they go weekend with LOVB on Thursday, then give the athletes some rest on Friday, and then Saturday they have the second match of the weekend with LOVB. Just some food for thought, just because back-to-back matches, especially with less than 24 hours rest, is so inconvenient. So I feel bad for Austin, but them's the breaks. And Atlanta is the best team in the league for a reason. Speaking of best teams in the league, you had LOVB Houston taking down LOVB Omaha in 4 sets. All right, I don't know what to say about Omaha. What, they've lost 9? I feel they've lost quite a bit straight. I don't know the exact number. I think it's like 7 or 8 straight. But yeah, this is a team that has fallen so far. Like, it's crazy if you ask me. I mean, Houston's good. I mean, there's a reason why Houston is kind of in second place, and they're not too far off of LOVB Atlanta. They're only 2 matches back of Atlanta. Meanwhile, LOVB Madison has a 1 match lead over Austin and Salt Lake. But Omaha, they'll still go to the LOVB playoffs. It's just that they'll be the 6th seed. But maybe they could turn it around, just because eventually they're going to figure out what's wrong with their team, and eventually they're going to break through eventually. When will it be? I don't know. But week 12 will get kicked off on Thursday with LOVB Atlanta taking on LOVB Houston. This could be the de facto match right here. If LOVB Houston ever needed to win a big match, this is the match. They got to win this battle between the top 2 teams. I mean, LOVB Houston, if they want to have any sort of hope of being the 1 seed or finishing with the regular season title, they got to win this one. They do so, they might actually have a shot. They don't, then Atlanta's probably going to rule the LOVB world with an iron fist. And then the weekend with LOVB in week 12 heads to Austin, as Austin will host Omaha. All right, well, it's kind of the 2 teams that are lumped together at the bottom. I would be surprised if Austin wound up winning this one. I mean, Omaha, if there's ever a week for Omaha to win, it's got to be this week. And if there's ever a match for them to win, it's got to be this match. Because Austin is pretty much in the same boat as Omaha, except 1 match ahead of them. And same can be said for the day after, the doubleheader between LOVB Salt Lake and LOVB Omaha. And that's rough if you're LOVB Omaha. I mean, it's gotten to the point where they're now starting Teran Rodriguez, which is good, but now they're kind of benching Justine Wong Orantes in terms of the libero position. But I think for Omaha, this is a manageable week. But my thing is for them, they got to win these. They got to win these just because I feel they definitely have what it takes. They have the talent. It's just that they're just on such a cold streak, and they just got to get 1 win. It's kind of like the Thrill situation where they just were on a lousy losing streak, and they just could not find their way find their way until they finally broke through. And then on ESPN2, which I think is really awesome, LOVB Madison will be playing at LOVB Austin at Strahan Arena. Again, this is on ESPN2. This is going to be on Saturday, which I don't know if – I hope people are going to watch that just because, well, March Madness is a thing, but I digress. But LOVB Madison versus LOVB Austin. Madison is the red-hot team. They have won 5 straight ever since they were the seller of the team, ever since they were they finished 6th at the LOVB Classic. Now we get to see Madison possibly win their 6th in a row, which I think would be incredible. And it's a testament to seeing how Madison has worked so hard. But remember, they're now road warriors. They're now playing on the road the rest of the way. Let's see what they can do against Austin. I feel they definitely have a lot of upside to them, but Austin is still pretty darn good. They've got Logan Eggleston, Maddie Skinner. The list goes on and on. So if there's ever a week for Austin to maybe get back into the win column, It's this week as they take on Omaha, which is in desperate need of a win, and Madison, which is riding the highs, but still can find ways of improvement and whatnot. And again, this is going to be nationally televised, and this is going to be their last nationally televised match until the LOVB playoffs, which I think is going to be pretty cool if you ask me. It's going to be the LOVB finals, and we're already in week 12. Can you believe it? As week 13, it's only a matter of time before we cross week 14, which will be the LOVB playoffs, which that's in 2 weeks. So there you have it right there. That's how it's going to be. And weekend with LOVB in week 13, which is next week, it's all going to be in Salt Lake. So it's actually going to be a Friday. I'm sorry. There's going to be a Friday match and then 2 Saturday matches. And then Thursday, LOVB Atlanta plays at LOVB Omaha, which, that could be bad. Omaha's got to win this week. If they can't win this week, then I don't know if they're going to be able to survive against Atlanta. Though they almost beat Atlanta. They just need to close out the sweep and whatnot. They got reverse swept. Anyway, that's going to do it for the LVB portion of the show. We're going to take one last quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got some high school boys volleyball to discuss, some 3C2A men's volleyball to discuss, and a little bit of youth sports action. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on The Defining Moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
And we are back with the final segment of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as The Neutral Zone and The Defining Moment. You won't want to miss either of those shows. So I guarantee you they will knock your socks off. All right, so let's talk some new volleyball. We're actually going to talk some youth sports men's volleyball. So I did not know this was a thing, but youth sports, which is actually a league. I don't know if it's affiliated with a 4-year and whatnot, but this was a little bit of a league right here. Whether it's like it's like a Canadian league, or it's for like Canadian schools and whatnot. So Brandon of Manitoba. Remember when Concordia Irvine was the team that kicked off the entire NCAA men's volleyball season, as they wound up playing Brandon of Manitoba in a match that actually counted. Yes, actually counted. As Brandon of Manitoba was the one that wound up winning the youth sports championship. And they actually did it on their home floor, and they did it as an 8 seed, which I thought was pretty impressive, as they're the 2025 Youth Sports Men's Volleyball Champions of the season. It's their first ever Youth Sports Championship. And I just wanted to highlight Brandon of Manitoba because they were one of the 2 teams that kicked off the NCAA men's volleyball season with Concordia Irvine, which I think is cool. So now this kind of makes me wonder, if Brandon of Manitoba wound up winning the Youth Sports Championship, does that play into Concordia Irvine's RPI or KPI and whatnot? I'm just kidding. It's just food for thought right there. But I think it's pretty cool, as Liam Pauls, Riley Grusing, and both had 12 and 11 kills each, and then Tom Friesen and Philip Lauder had 10 kills each, which I think was pretty darn cool if you ask me. Brandon wound up beating Alberta in 4 sets, 25-20, 22-25, 28-26, and 25-17, which I thought was pretty good. As Pauls also added 3 service aces, and Grusing Grusing had 5 digs apiece, while Lauder had 9 block assists, or 9 blocks, and he hit 588. And he was named the championship MVP of the Youth Sports Championship, which I thought was pretty cool if you ask me. And the Mikasa player of the games were JJ Love of Brandon and Isaac Haslinga of Alberta. The championship MVP, like I mentioned, was Philip Lauder, and the all-star team of the championship was Jonathan Portalance of Sherbrooke, Emmett Graham of Saskatchewan. If I'm mispronouncing these names, I apologize. But Emmett Graham of Saskatchewan. Then you have Isaac Haslinga of Alberta, Trent Sharawati of Alberta, Philip Lauder of Brandon, Liam Pauls of Brandon, and then the RW Pew Fair Play Award went to the Windsor Lancers. So that's pretty much that for the youth sports. I didn't even know this was a thing, which I thought was pretty darn cool if you ask me. But congratulations to Brandon. The team that helped kick off the NCAA men's volleyball season wound up winning its first ever youth sports championship on its home floor, mind you, as an 8th seed, mind you. So congratulations to Brandon. That is very awesome if you ask me. So hats off to them. Okay, so it looks like this whole youth sports thing looks like it's like collegiate volleyball, but it's in Canada and whatnot. So I think it's pretty cool if you ask me. But I also think it's pretty cool that Brandon wound up winning on its home floor as an 8 seed. So I only wish I could have discovered this a little bit sooner, but my show would have been a lot longer than what it is now. I mean, we're already at 90 minutes into this thing, and I try to keep my shows at like 90 minutes, but there's so much happening, so little time. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit of some 3C2A men's volleyball. So 3C2A in men's volleyball, I pretty much just put a lot of like notable videos on there, and I tried to spice up some of the videos. Like I've been trying to spice up my videos with like graphics and like clips and whatnot. I mean, one of my followers, he did actually mention that my videos kind of lack the sauce. They just need a little bit more like graphics, or need a little bit more oomph to them. So I kind of added some clips that I lumped together with iMovie, or I used like a video shop editor and whatnot. So there you go. All right, but Going to the 3C2A, it was such an amazing week. If there is any week for the 3C2A if there was any indicator that you should be watching 3C2A men's volleyball, it was last week, particularly last Wednesday, as it was a very, 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 very fun week. Wednesday, we might as well just get this out of the way. We had Golden West taking down Orange Coast on the road in 5 sets. The Rustlers managed to stave off an Orange Coast set point after Orange Coast rounded off 4 straight. And eventually Golden West wound up winning the first set 27-25. They rolled in the second set. They were up 16-12, but Orange Coast made a comeback. Orange Coast rolled through the 4th set for the most part. And then the 5th set, OCC scored the first point, but Golden West eventually took the lead. Even though Orange Coast got the lead down to 1, the Rustlers were able to win that 5th set 15-10. It's the first win over Orange Coast in the Nick Amato era, and it's the first win over Orange Coast since 2016. So Nick Amato did say that he was going to knock one off of Travis eventually, and he was able to do so. So congratulations to former set point guest Nick Amato for getting his first ever win over his former school, Orange Coast, and one of his former coaches. But yeah, it was a tough loss for Orange Coast, but they showed some grit and resilience. But that first set was what really killed them. They take that first set, it's a whole different ball game. But I was told that one of the assistant coaches, Mike D'Alessandro, who knows a lot of volleyball because he played at Long Beach State, he said everybody is gunning for the champions. Everyone is going after the champions. So the thing is, for the Pirates, it's kind of hard to not have a gigantic target on your back when you're the 3-time back-to-back-to-back state champions. And then you also had a 34-match win streak or 33-match win streak going into one match. Like, everybody is going to be taking their best shot at the best team. But yeah, Golden West deserves a lot of credit. There's a reason why they were number 3 and Orange Coast was number 1, but Golden West was number 3, and they very well deserved that win. Everything else was pretty much expected. There was no upsets and no other upsets and whatnot. The only big upset there was Orange Coast losing to Golden West. But honestly, Golden West is just as talented as Orange Coast. They are so athletic and talented. So moving over to Friday. Friday was so big. It was another big day of 3C2A men's volleyball. There were 2 big-time matches. First, we got to go with number 1 Orange Coast at number 2 San Diego Mesa. So first 2 sets, well, the first set, San Diego Mesa takes it 25-21, but Orange Coast also lost Andrew Kargas, who was one of their more better players, probably one of their top players on their team. And oh man, that was a tough loss. This was what Kargas's dad told me, which he was limping off the court and he could not put any weight on that. And apparently he's out for 2 weeks and he could be back by the time the playoffs roll around. But that is such a tough loss. But Orange Coast has some other talented players. I mean, this is a Travis Turner team we're talking about. If one player goes down, he always has another to back that player up and so on and so forth. Second set, San Diego Mesa wound up winning that 25-21. And suddenly San Diego Mesa's up 2-0 on the Pirates. Then Orange Coast wins the third set, 25-19. They narrowly win the fourth set, 25-23. And they pull off the reverse sweep, winning set 5, 15-10. Even though Trevor Clark of San Diego Mesa had 30 kills for the Olympians, the Pirates still found a way to win. They've beaten the Olympians 16 straight times and have not lost to San Diego Mesa since 2013. That was back when I first started covering Orange Coast College men's volleyball for my school newspaper. But we also had 2 more upsets. We had Santa Monica taking down Santa Barbara City in 4 sets, which I thought was big. And that really puts a damper on Santa Barbara's chances of winning its division in terms of the Northern Conference. So the Northern Conference and Southern Conference are divided into 2 conferences, and then they're also divided into 2 divisions. So Santa Barbara is in the Northern Division, the Northern Division Canyon Division, the Canyon Division of the Northern Conference. There you go. And Santa Barbara losing to Moore Park really hurt their chances. But thankfully for Santa Barbara, they got a little bit of a present of their own as Long Beach City edged out Moore Park in 5 sets, getting a little revenge on the Raiders as the Vikings managed to push their win streak to 5. And Long Beach City, again, this is a Long Beach City team that's fairly young, a new team. They have a new head coach in Andrew Nels, but they've got some pretty darn good players, such as Andrew Boucher. So Long Beach City could be a dark horse team to win it all in terms of the 3C2A in men's volleyball, but don't count out the Vikings. I think they're starting to get better as the season progresses. But yeah, those are some notable wins right there. So checking out the notable matches for this week. Wednesday, we have Santa Monica at Moore Park. That could be a very sneaky good game, and Moore Park can ill afford another loss in conference play. They just can't afford one just because Santa Barbara is nipping at their heels. Then you got San Diego Miramar at Orange Coast. I'll be at that match. I really would like to see Orange Coast get up off the – well, they did get up off the mat. I would like to see them beating an opponent that doesn't require 5 sets, because the last time they played Miramar, they had to go 5 with Miramar. And then El Camino Santa Barbara will be a sneaky good matchup. And then Irvine Valley at San Diego Mesa. Well, I think this one might be a therapy session for San Diego Mesa. I think they're going to take all their anger and take it out on Irvine Valley. Irvine Valley, as good as they have been in the past, they just aren't the same Irvine Valley team as they are. They're not as good as years past. And that's no knock on Rory Jones and his team. I think they're still solid. It's just that this year's team just doesn't have the sauce like last year's team or the 2 years ago, but I digress. Then Friday, we have Moore Park at El Camino, Santa Monica at LA Pierce, Orange Coast at Grossmont. This one, I think, is the big match. And, oh, my God, I wish this match wasn't on freaking Friday. It's San Diego Mesa at Golden West. And, oh, could they have moved that to freaking Friday? Oh, man. But, yeah, San Diego Mesa at Golden West, that's going to be a very fun matchup. San Diego Mesa is the only team that has beaten Golden West all season. No team has had the answer for the Rustlers. This could be a chance for revenge for Golden West, but they got to play some darn good volleyball. And they can ill afford another conference loss as well in their division. So we'll see what happens with Golden West and San Diego Mesa. But this is a big week for San Diego Mesa. They're going to be really challenged. Same with Irvine Valley. They've got San Diego Miramar on its home floor on Friday as well. So I think it's going to be big as well. So there you have it right there. That's it for some 3C2A men's volleyball. So now let's close out the show with some high school boys volleyball. All right. So last Friday, Miracosta managed to sweep Loyola of Los Angeles in straight sets. Okay, long story short, when it comes to this, Loyola did not have Blake Fallbush, and Michael Bull even said it in an article. He says his team needs to get better, needs to get healthier as well. So I hate to say this, but without Blake Fallbush, I don't think Loyola can contend with Miracosta. And what's worse is that Loyola also plays Huntington Beach this week at their home gym. And maybe it's just me, but I just feel Huntington Beach is more at full strength, and they're kind of gelling at the right time. And also, Huntington Beach, they lost to Loyola in the Best of the West semifinals, but that was in a best 2 out of 3 matches. Best 2 out of 3 matches are far different than 3 out of 5 matches. I know number of sets played, but if you lose a set in a best 2 out of 3 match, you're on your heels right away. Whereas if you lose a set in a best 3 out of 5 match, it's like, okay, we lost the first set. We kind of got to keep it going or step it up. But yeah, Huntington Beach Loyola is going to be the high school boys volleyball match that highlights the week. I mean, Miracosta is on a tear, but Huntington Beach is just as good. I could very well see Huntington Beach contending against Miracosta come playoff time. And I think both these teams are playing at a very high level. I really want to give Loyola a chance to go back-to-back this year. But honestly, it's so tough when your star player is out and whatnot. So we'll have to see. But I think for Huntington Beach, they should beat Loyola. I mean, I'm not saying Loyola is going to lose because they still have Simon Capps, who is pretty darn good. But Huntington Beach is just playing some darn good volleyball. They swept Redondo Union in the Rocky Chiarelli Invitational, which I thought was pretty darn impressive. But now let's see what they could do on the road against Loyola. Like, Loyola is a very tough place to win at, but Huntington Beach, they know that Loyola was the team that kind of derailed Huntington Beach's hope of make it to the CIF final. So we'll see what Huntington Beach brings to the table this season. And I guess if there's a high school boys volleyball match that I'll be at, it's Friday. I'll be PA announcing Corona Del Mar's match against Edison. That could kind of be a sneaky good match, but Edison is, I mean, they're starting to find their footing. And they're playing Redondo Union as we speak. But will they be able to take down Corona Del Mar, who has Ben Brown? I don't know. Also, keep an eye out for Hunter Hanneman as well. Drake Foley's also a very good player. He transitioned from libero/defensive specialist to setter, which I think is very impressive. And that's a big-time leadership move right there. And again, if you're not putting 2 + 2 together, Drake Foley is Sterling Foley's little brother. So there you have it right there. I know I kind of had to skim through high school boys volleyball as quick as possible, but we're already an hour and 45 minutes into this show. And God, I appreciate the 153 viewers that took time out of their day to watch this. And I also appreciate everyone that watched on the playback. I also appreciate everyone that listens to this as a podcast and so on and so forth. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I will be at Long Beach State most likely. Well, I'll definitely be at UC Irvine for Long Beach State, UC Irvine on Saturday. I should be at Long Beach State for Long Beach State, UC Irvine. We'll have to, but it's a time will tell process. I mean, I still got the PA volleyball, the match that I got PA for on Friday as well to do. So you have that right there. But for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action, whether it's high school, professional, or collegiate. I will see you all on Friday at noon for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Have a great night, everybody. Peace!